On her first day as a new inspector in Unit 1, Akane Tsunemori is assigned to accompany enforcers Masaka and Shinya Kogami. Enforcer Shisei Kaguri finds Nobuo Okura, who has kidnapped and raped a woman. Okura flees, but is killed by Shinya's advanced Dominator gun. As the woman's crime coefficient increases, Shinya tries to kill her, but Akane paralyzes him with her weapon. Akane calms the woman down, and Inspector Nobuchika Jinosa paralyzes her. Shinya is hospitalized, recovering from the Dominator-enforced paralysis, and Akane is depressed about her actions. Masaka teams up with her to investigate a person with a high crime coefficient in a shopping mall, and, after they return, Akane shares a meal and banters with Shisei. She later visits Kogami, who reinforces her belief that she made the right call during the hostage situation, and submits her report with no regrets. Unit 1 is called to a drone manufacturing plant to investigate several cases of employee dismemberment by drones. The manager of the plant swears that they are accidents, but Unit 1 thinks otherwise. They notice a plant worker being bullied by the others. To prevent computer hacking, the plant has been isolated from all electronic networks, including the Sibyl System. Without the system, they have no way to identify the killer or use their dominators, but the enforcers use other weapons to recover the dominators and execute the criminal. Unit 1 tries to find the killer of a man known online as Talisman, a popular avatar now controlled by his killer. Akane, with the help of the avatar of Spooky Boogie, infiltrates a Kamu field gathering to expose the murderer, but her ploy goes awry. The murderer, who is working with Shogo Makishima, kills the owner of a Spooky Boogie and takes over the avatar as well. Investigating Spooky Boogie's death, Shinya identifies the culprit as Masatake Midu. Hiya Masaka and Akane close in on Masatake and severely wound him before he flees to the safety of his avatars, who turn on him under Shogo's command. The group apprehends Masatake, and Jinosa later tells Akane about his attitude towards enforcers. His former partner was Shinya, who used to be an inspector before his crime coefficient became high due to a cold case in which one of his enforcers was killed. Unit 1 theorizes that a mastermind might have influenced the murderous actions of two recent suspects, by giving them the ability and motivation to realize their deadly desires. Shinya sees eerie similarities between these cases and the earlier cold case, which got him demoted to enforcer and resulted in the brutal death of Mitsuru Sasayama, his enforcer. Akane looks for more information about Shinya from Shisei and enforcer Shion Karanamori, and learns about Mitsuri and the cold specimen case. At a girls' school, Rikako Oreo, the enigmatic president of its art club, ensnares an unsuspecting victim and mutilates her body under Shogo's tutelage. After realizing that the recent murders and the specimen case are connected, Jinosa takes Shinya off the case and asks Akane to watch over him. Makishima, in a study with Toyohisa Senguji, reveals the circumstances of Rikako Oreo's father's death and discusses the decreasing life expectancy. Rikako continues her crimes with the help of Makishima's colleague, Cho Gusung, and abducts a fellow student who is worried about her friend's disappearance. With his profiling skills, Shinya Kogami determines that the girl's school killer isn't the same murderer from the specimen case because the recent murders lack the originality and pointed social commentary of the previous killings. When Akane Tsunemori and he realize the culprit is one of the students, they locate Rikako Oreo, who escapes when one of the teachers stops Kogami from executing her. As the enforcers try to locate her secret routes and hiding places, Oreo flees, but not before everyone discovers her latest brutal creation. Shogo Makishima calls Oreo to tell her that she's a disappointment and has Toyohisa Senguji dispose of her. In the meantime, Kogami picks up a damaged audio file which was deliberately left by Makishima. Due to Oreo's failure, Makishima develops an interest in Kogami. In attempting to track down Shogo Makishima, Shinya takes Akane to visit his former teacher, Joji Saiga, who agrees to give her a crash course on criminal profiling. However, Nobuchika Jinosa reprimands her harshly, which results in an argument. Afterwards, Tomomi Masaka explains to her Jinosa's attitude by revealing his past. In the meantime, Makishima discusses humanity and philosophy with Toyohisa Senguji, who, in an earlier interview, reveals himself to be nearly a full android. Shogo Makishima and Toyohisa Senguji set up a hunt by using Akane Tsunemori's friend, Yuki Funahara, as bait to lure Shinya Kogami into an abandoned subway station. Upon entering the station, Kogami loses contact with Akane Tsunemori and discovers Funahara in a train car. The two must evade Senguji and his canine drones as a curious Makishima observes from above. Nobuchika Jinosa scolds Tsunemori for letting Kogami go off on his own, but Tomomi Masaka chastises him over his treatment of her. Meanwhile, Makishima rigs the hunt to give Kogami a chance to create a working transponder and, as a result, Kogami makes contact with the group outside and they rush to his rescue. With a drone delivering him a Dominator, Shinya outwits Senguji and kills him. Yuki is captured by Makishima, with Shinya too weak to follow. As Masaka treats Shinya's injuries, Akane pursues Makishima alone. To her shock, she discovers that her Dominator is useless against him, his crime coefficient levels are too low, and Makishima attributes his ability to cheat Sibyl's judgment to his free will. He gives Akane the chance to try killing him with Senguji's shotgun, but she cannot do so. Makishima kills Yuki and flees. 3 years ago, guitarist Yayo was institutionalized after she was identified as a latent criminal. As she anxiously awaits release to play the guitar again, she is approached by Inspector Shinya and Jinosa about a series of crimes in the area with which she was once familiar. Shinya gives her some guitar strings which remind her of Rina Takazaki, a guitarist she admired. When the club they are investigating is set ablaze after Sasayama approaches culprits dealing in Molotov cocktails, Yayoi searches for Rina and discovers that she is part of a resistance group selling Molotov cocktails to overthrow the Sibyl System. She tries to stop Rina, but finds that she cannot use the Dominator that Shinya gave her because she is not an enforcer yet. Rina escapes. Yayoi then resolves to become an enforcer and leaves the rehabilitation center. Jinosa meets with Public Security Bureau head Jushu Kase about Makishima. Jushu tells him about the real culprit of the 3-year-old specimen case, Toma Kuzoburu, who is criminally asymptomatic, like Makishima. She orders Jinosa to capture Makishima alive. Akane agrees to undergo a memory scoop to provide an image of Makishima based on her memories of the incident, despite warnings that it may damage her psychopaths. Despite reliving the traumatizing memory, the memory scoop is completed without her psychopaths reaching dangerous levels and provides an image of Makishima. Jinosa is later revealed as Masaka's son when they discuss Akane's psychopaths. A man in a helmet commits crimes, but his crime coefficient is not high enough to set off an alarm before he kills a woman in public. Unit 1 later learns that criminals wearing the same helmets robbed an armored car. Shinya theorizes that the second crime would have a motive. This leads their investigation to Jayunmai Ito, who had a grudge against the victim. As Jayunmai tries to escape, Shinya deduces that the helmets copy the low crime coefficients of innocent bystanders and help criminals avoid capture. With Akane and Masaka's help, he apprehends the murderer. As footage of the helmet killings appear on the internet, helmets are distributed to more criminals. They begin openly committing more horrendous crimes, prompting bloodthirsty revenge from the public in the name of self-defense. As the Bureau's forces suppresses the riots, Shinya deduces that they are intended to draw the police away from the Health and Welfare Ministry's Nona Tower facility, where the Sibyl System is located. As Makishima and his gang break in, Shinya, Akane and Shisei head to the scene. Shinya and Akane chase Makishima to the top of the Nona Tower as Shisei descends to the basement and loses contact with the network. Makishima defeats Shinya in a fight, but is then knocked out by Akane. Shinya tells Akane to kill Makishima, but Akane controls her emotions. Shisei overpowers the guards and confronts Gyuzong at the heart of the Sibyl System. Gyuzong is killed by Kase, who is revealed to be a cyborg and overrides Shisei's Dominator to shoot at her. Makishima is arrested and the riots are controlled. Later that day, Kase tells Jinosa that Makishima's case has been taken out of the MWPSB's hands and orders him to investigate Shisei's whereabouts. Makishima is later confronted by Kase, who reveals himself to be Kozaburo and shares a cybernetic body with Kase. He explains to Makishima that the Sibyl System is a supercomputer network composed of the brains of criminally asymptomatic individuals like him. Kozaburo invites Makishima to become part of the system. He refuses, killing Kozaburo, escaping and contacting Shinya. Kase assigns Jinosa to recapture Makishima and asks that Shinya be removed from the case. Jinosa arranges for Shinya to be transferred to Division 2, who are investigating Shisei's whereabouts. They are confronted by Kase, who tries to get Jinosa to kill Shinya. Akane knocks Shinya out with her paralyzer mode. When he recovers, Shinya borrows a helmet from Cheyenne, retrieves keys to a safe house from Masaka, and leaves the group. He explains in a letter to Akane that the only way he can stop Makishima is to step outside the law. Jinosa refuses intensive therapy to work on retrieving Shinya and Makishima. Shinya visits Saiga to figure out Makishima's next move, and they surmise that Makishima might attempt to meddle with Japan's food supply to force the country's borders to open. Kase connects with Sibyl to determine their new pawn. Akane is later contacted by the Sibyl System, which says that it will tell her the truth about everything. The Sibyl System reveals itself to Akane, saying that she understands the necessity of the system, if not its justifiability, and asking her to help take Makishima alive. Makishima finds the professor responsible for the Hyperotes system and kills him after finding the information he seeks, keeping the man's fingers and eyeballs as a measure against biometric security. Shinya arrives on the scene soon afterwards, and leaves a clue for Unit 1. Akane convinces the Sibyl System to withdraw Shinya's execution order if she captures Makishima alive. She finds Shinya's clue and learns about the situation as Makishima reaches his destination, with Shinya on his trail. Shinya and his former comrades arrive at the factory, where he tells Akane that they need to shut down power to the facility to bypass security. Akane convinces the Sibyl System to keep her Dominator in Paralyzer mode with the safety off, regardless of crime coefficient, to use as a trump card against Makishima and Shinya. After the power is shut down, Shinya sneaks into the facility while Akane and Yayo head to the control room in case Makishima tries to activate the emergency power. As Jinosa is trapped under a container, Masaka comes face to face with Makishima. Makishima threatens to blow Jinosa up with dynamite, and Masaka sacrifices himself to save his son. Jinosa is horrified by his father's death, and Shinya pursues Makishima. Shinya stabs Makishima during their fight, but Akane interrupts them. Makishima escapes in a truck, Akane shoots out the tires, and he crashes in a field. Resigned to his fate, Makishima kneels and waits for Shinya to execute him. Akane later tells the Sibyl System that someone will pull their plug in the future, and the system asks her to fight for a better future. A young, new inspector arrives on the scene 2 months later, and Jinosa, now an enforcer, believes that Shisei is dead. Shinya departs in a small cabin room on a ship.